Hey there. So today is the day of the Uranus Cazimi. It's coming in today. It's coming into its Cazimi period. It's like a window, a portal of opportunity. And then the Sun and Uranus will come together. That's when they go, when they're exact. That's really the moment of the Cazimi. And then they start to ease off. And then they appear to go their separate ways. What's actually happening is the Sun is going faster. And so the Sun completely laps Uranus. But when the Sun comes to a planet, as it gets closer, if you imagine you're at a party and you might just sort of be sort of like mingling with other people, and we could say that all these other people are planets, and then all of a sudden there's the door bursts wide open and the Sun comes in, and those people, they come through the door and everyone notices them, and all of a sudden, you don't really hear the conversation of everyone else around you because there's a much bigger personality has burst right in. And that's how I see a Cazimi. So the Sun bursts in, the Sun starts to get closer and closer and closer to a planet. And as that happens, that planet seems to get muted, kind of gets burnt out, by the rays of the Sun, the blast, the like complete energy. All eyes are on the Sun and everything else is like a tiny speck. And maybe you felt like that when you've been at a party. I know I have. And, maybe you and I have also been Suns other places without even knowing. I mean, who knows what goes on with social interaction? But today I'm talking about planetary interaction. And so today, this big old Sun has got so close to Uranus. And then all of a sudden it notices Uranus, almost as if it's about to step on it. But the Sun highlights Uranus. It says, hey, everyone, have you seen Uranus? And then all of a sudden, all eyes on Uranus, and the halo of the Sun, or, you've got the energy of the Sun kind of promoting Uranus. And so that's what happens, as the Sun gets closer and closer to a planet, it mutes the planet. We're not able to notice that planet so much. That planet seems to, I don't know, get a bit shy, feel a bit insecure. And then as the Sun comes up, it absolutely kind of draws attention to that planet. And so that's what's happening as we see it in the stars. And of course, then the Sun's going to, at this party, is how I'm imagining it. Obviously, I grew up not at the time of Mean Girls, but that's obviously how I'm recounting this story. I'm at the party and then the Sun kind of loses interest and wanders off and goes off in a different direction. So, this is a window of opportunity. The Sun's coming to Uranus and then it will wander off. What I'm going to do today is talk about the energy of the Uranus Cazimi. So when the Sun is highlighting the Uranus energy, how is that felt? How is that experienced? And what kind of opportunity does that give you? I'm going to give you the times of when it's coming in across a few different time zones. So I've got Sydney, Australia, Europe, the UK, New York, and San Francisco. So I'm trying to cover as many different time zones according to the people that YouTube tells me are watching these videos. So if you're in the Middle East, I really apologize. And I hope you can work it out quite easily and effortlessly. So I'm going to give you the time so you can see when that window opens up, when it's exact, and when it eases off. Once we're out of that window, again, the Uranus energy is dimmed, and it's going to be dimmed, I think, until the 3rd of June. And it's going to be interesting because like Uranus is going to go into another sign. It's going to move into Gemini after it's a long period of time in Taurus. So Uranus is going to get another kind of like sudden burst of energy as we go into July, and it changes signs. But anyway, I'm going to pace you through what this might mean. So what are the characteristics of Uranus Cazimi? And then I'm going to tell you or share with you how I think you might want to use that change in consciousness, that kind of extra shot of energy, and to use it according to your sun sign. Now, I think that this is better to do with your ascending sign. So if you already know your ascendant, I absolutely recommend that you check out the sign of your ascendant. But if you don't know, I still think it works really well with your sun as well. So it's easy done. And if you do want to find out what your ascendant is, you can go to astro-seek.com and pop in your details, or you can go to www.astro.com and set up a new profile. They're really, really simple. It's really, really free. And I think the more you learn about your chart, the more liberated you'll feel. Anyway, if you're new to this channel, my name's Louisa Tanner-Munson, and I use astrology to create a sense of opportunity and openness and a sense of freedom and choice. And that's how I use astrology. So I'm hoping if you're here, that you get a sense of that. If you've been here before, welcome back. Thank you so much. I appreciate your support. So let's bring up Uranus. So this is a statue of Uranus, allegedly, that I found online. And, I've put the words break free. Uranus is the god of the heavens, and I've got a whole playlist on Uranus. So if you are interested in Uranus and want to examine him at a much greater level, please do check out my Uranus playlist. But Uranus is, the god of the skies, the god of the heavens. And, when you think about heavens, we're thinking about air, we're thinking about the energy of thought and consciousness. He's the higher harmonic of Mercury. So everything to do with communication, belief systems, like ideas, like really fast-paced ideas. That's a real Uranus thing. He's also got the energy sort of aspect. So people think of lightning bolts and thunder. And of course, if you think of electricity, the internet, in particular, like the Internet of Things ideas, that's a real Uranus thing. Uranus, he's a communard. He is somebody who absolutely believes in the truth, and believes in the rebellion to create truth. Uranus is on one hand really, really about shaking things up, which I guess a good storm does. And so, yes, he creates a change, a sudden up and a sudden down. For instance, he does appear in people's charts at times, when, he doesn't just appear like poof, there he is. He's always there. But, when people have things going on that might be surprising, sudden change, things that they didn't see coming, like accidents and things like that, or falls and trips or little shocks. Usually there's something going on to that person's Uranus, or transiting Uranus is doing something. For instance, Donald Trump's assassination attempts also had a real sort of Uranus Mars thing going on. So yeah, Uranus creates a sudden change. And so that's the energy that we've got going on today. Now, the birth chart itself for this particular Cazimi, Uranus is right at the end of Taurus. He's at 27 degrees in the sign of Taurus. Now, if you like Sabian symbols, and I do, I really recommend you look at Linda Hill's website, which is www.sabian, Sabian symbols, SYMBOLS. So sabiansymbols.com. And you can go and you can click on 27, click on Taurus, click enter, and it'll give you the message. Now, in a sort of wrapped up way, because I want to keep this short, the message about this particular Sabian symbol is that we're getting a second chance. So there's this second chance energy. There's this starting over again energy. And the energy is also associated with romance and passion. Now, that's not something that comes up when you look at Uranus in the sign of Taurus necessarily, though Taurus is a sign that is ruled by Venus, which is all about love, and it's all about the natural things. So that's kind of fascinating to me. I'm going to come back to this in a second. I just want to look at this, the actual chart itself. So at the time of this Uranus Cazimi, and I just want to say, this is the last one in the sign of Taurus. So this happens every year when the sun connects with Taurus. But, Uranus is when the sun connects with Uranus. But Uranus has been going through this sign of Taurus since 2018. So there has been, or this is going to be the 8th particular Uranus Cazimi in the sign of Taurus since 2018, and the next one next year will be in the sign of Gemini. So I think that these Uranus Cazimis come in a set. Each one represents the start of a new Uranus and Sun cycle. So these are cycles of innovation. And so that really brings me back to describing it, which I will do in a minute. But this is quite an important one because it's sealing the door on the Uranus and Taurus time, and how we integrate it with our personality, which, in our birth chart, the sun represents our personality. And so questions that you might want to ask yourself is, what haven't you paid attention to fully? Because there's an element of thought and consciousness that goes on with Uranus. What truth, because he's all about truth, what truth offers you greater freedom? So again, in the start of this Sun and Uranus cycle, you may well be asking yourself that today. Given that it's in the sign of Taurus, and Taurus is all about values, you might ask yourself, what values offer you greater choice and freedom? I also notice that this is in a trine to the moon, almost an exact trine. So you've got the the moon and the sun and Uranus all in a trine together, which is lovely. It's also in a trine to Pluto. Pluto and Uranus have been in a long-standing trine, but it's very, very much about transforming the ideas of freedom and independence. So I think collectively we are on a course to develop a sense of independence and our own real unique sovereignty. Then Uranus is also in a sextile to Neptune, which I think is bringing out a lot of innovation and creativity. It's also in a sextile to Saturn, which is giving us stability in the way that we are channeling information, or it gives us stability to be fresh, stability to be new and innovative. So I don't know. I mean, it sounds like Uranus and Saturn are completely at odds. And in mythology, Uranus was the father of Saturn, and Saturn castrated his father. He didn't want his father's rule. He wanted to rule himself. Saturn is really he wants it all. But Saturn here can actually give your sense of freshness and newness, a sense of seriousness, a sense of discernment. Sometimes Uranus, he has these ideas, or these ideas come up and they're fresh, they're new. And in that moment, you're about to do it. And then the moment passes. Whereas Saturn working with this gives it an element of durability. It gives it a bit more gravitas, which I think is really helpful. So, and also it's in a sextile to the North Node. So whatever is going on with our zippy new thoughts and feelings is potentially giving us that sense that we're back on track, which I think is good. So you could say that some of the key words to this event today is that it's deeply transformative. It's creating a sense of strong new freedoms that have got some persistence. That's the Saturn energy. That it's really innovating on creativity. So, by that, I think maybe creativity becomes a bit more useful, that it can be really felt in a great way. And there is this sense that you're getting back on track. And of course, because it's in a trine with the moon, it really is bringing this emotional attunement. So you might ask yourself, where have I been out of alignment with my soul? This could jolt you alive. This could wake you up to coming back into that sense of soul. So I see that this Cazimi could be affecting us in a real sort of personality way, in a mind way, and also in a very physical way. So, other things to consider in terms of personal psychology, he's giving us this need for freedom, truth, and independence, where we push all the boundaries and where we have that sense of rebellion and excitement that something new is about to occur. With the mind, because this is it can give you that sense of things being channeled and telepathic communication. There is also this sense of prophecy and seeing the future. Uranus is the astrologer's planet. So this sense of prophecy and seeing into the future, and also not being completely attached to it, but observing it. It's almost like we're coming out of our body to observe what's going on. It gives us a different sense of perceptions and awareness, which I think is really, really useful. So, if you are somebody who channels, who is very much about alternative consciousness, this is right up your street. This is the start of a new cycle that you could harness, not just for right now, but like throughout the whole year. So it's a really good day to ask yourself, how am I starting a new cycle of freedom? How am I starting a new cycle of, being shocked into my own pattern? How can I start a new cycle of freedom that gets me back on track? Big, big themes. Last thing then, in terms of physical energies, be really aware of what's going on around you in terms of your electromagnetic energy. We are electromagnetic beings. Be in the company of people that lift you up, not that tire you out. I think energy vampirism will be really strong today. You really want to be in the vibration and frequency of what pleases you and what lifts you up. It creates a lot of nervous energy, and be on the lookout. You don't go on these far-flung trips where you need loads and loads of concentration. Uranus is associated with accidents and unknown things happening. Just like a calamitous series of events. It really can give you a sudden up and it can give you a sudden down, and it can really reverse the direction that you're going in. So just be really mindful if you're doing something out of the ordinary today. It's a really good day to be spontaneous, but always be aware with Uranus, it can create a physical energy. And in terms of ailments, it could be like a really unknown thing that happens, something out of the blue. Now it's a 15-hour window. And so I'm in the London time zone here. That should say PM. It's starting at just after 4 o'clock today on the 17th of May. It's exact at midnight on the 18th, and then it ends in the early morning. So, for instance, if you're in London, and also Europe, because we're in the same time zone, it's just like they're an hour ahead. So London, Europe, from late afternoon on the 17th until early in the morning on the 18th, that is your window of opportunity. And like I said, in a minute, I'm going to go through it sign by sign to really give you a quick shot of Uranus energy. Some questions that you might want to consider during this time. You really might get that spark of inspiration that solves something for you, that gives you that second chance to do it over again. I think it's really good to start over. If you're in Australia, it's starting at 1 a.m. in the morning on the 18th. Is that right? Yes, it is. It's exact at 9:32 on the in the morning on the 18th, and it ends at 4 o'clock on the 18th. Yeah, so it's fully in the 18th for you if you're in Australia. If you're in San Francisco, it's completely on the 17th. So it starts at 8 a.m. in the morning and goes right the way through to 11 o'clock at night, and it's exact at 4:30 in the afternoon for you. So you can see that you've got a really good window of opportunity. And I would say if you're in Sydney or in San Francisco, you really get a good crack of the whip. You've got it throughout the whole day. And if you're in New York, it starts at 11 a.m. on the 17th. And goes through to 2 a.m. on the 18th. So this is just there for you to help know when to ask yourselves these great questions. It'll be a fantastic time to write a letter to yourself or to tune in to the energies around you and to kind of program into your mind's eye how you'd like things to work. Uranus really does work with language and thought and patterns and imagery. And so I really think things like neuro-linguistic programming, hypnosis, timeline therapy, I practice all of those, which is why they came to mind. But tapping, anything that's working with your energy and your frequency and some intention in a pattern, I think is really, really helpful, because it can shock you into a new way of being. It can, lots of people talk about skipping timelines. Now, I'm not really here to talk about that, but I think you could shock yourself onto, or quickly switch over your energy onto another way of being. I guess what I'm seeing here is, like you see the images of a train going down the track, and the track goes off in two different directions. I think you could skip to the next track if you wanted to. So this is quite a good energetic force that we're coming into today. So like I said, this is the chart. It's got a lot of ease. Uranus isn't actually connected to anything in a really desperately bad way. He's not really being challenged. If anything, all the planets are there to really support him, for his energy to be really, really felt. So everything to do with your perception, awareness, the ability to make quick decisions, fast decisions, like lightning strikes. There is an attunement. And you might have things like tingles in your body. You might get that sort of electric feel, that it's a funny feeling, isn't it? When you've got a different sensation in your body, and it I guess it's just making you a little bit aware, a little bit charged up, a little bit I guess it's alerting us to a new reality. So Yeah, I would say go with it. You know, Uranus energy, I don't think is the kind of energy that you can really suppress. I think you have to really go with it and sort of enjoy that sense of new consciousness, that sense of new change, that sudden insight. This is a good moment. So anyway, I'm going to bring in now the star signs, and I'm going to go through them one by one. Okay, just so that I've got them lined up now, and give you a few keywords that might be really helpful for you in understanding how to use this energy. So, for instance, if you're an Aries, what I really think is going on for you is there's a shock awareness, a new sense of consciousness around money, how you can have more freedom with money, more independence, and it's the sense of a second chance. You know, what have you been working on since 2018? How have you developed? How have you got more freedom for yourself and a greater sense of self-esteem, which is a very much a second house issue? How has this happened since 2018? You know, Uranus has been going through this part of your chart to create a sense of freedom and a sense of new awareness. He's come in to show you that money can go up and it can go down. But what remains is how you feel about yourself. How can you give yourself freedom today? If you ask those questions, I think real magic could come up, and it will set you on a whole new Uranus sun cycle for a greater sense of freedom around all of that. Let's have a look at Taurus then. So what's going on for Taurus? Okay, so this is going on in your first house. I mean, Uranus has been going through your first house since 2018. You've really got used to some big changes. Some really big changes have occurred that have really changed the way you are and the way you're perceived, how you feel as a person. It feels like your whole personality has been shaken up. Now, as Uranus is coming to the end of its time in Taurus, and it will be going into Gemini in July, I really feel like what you've been doing to yourself and how you've been shaking yourself into greater awareness, I think that's attuned you to a whole new future. I think what's coming up for you over the next few months is this sense of leaping out of anything that you've done traditionally to earn money, and you're going to be thinking much more about how you can use that energy in the future to create greater wealth. So I do think your perceptions about yourself are about to change, and you're going to create some more freedom for yourself around how you are being in the world. This is fantastic as far as I can see. You're really integrating all the changes you've been through as a person. So let's have a look at Gemini now. So Gemini, this is going on in a really private part of your chart, which has a lot to do with individual consciousness. So I think you've become aware of things like self-sabotage, things that have held you back, where you've had awful fears and you've had to face them. You've had no choice but to face them. So with this particular Uranus Cazimi, you're starting off on a new cycle of freedom, of breaking patterns, of letting go of those fears. Very soon, when Uranus comes into this part of your chart, the first house, it's going to encourage you to be a lot braver, a lot more courageous, and to take a few more spontaneous risks. So all that's really happening now is you're getting really, really aware of what's holding you back from making the break and changing your life. Things are going to get thrown up in the air. So you might choose to ask yourself, how can I be more resilient in the face of change? How can I be braver to break free? How can I find what's holding myself back and love it out of my system? So all of those, I think, could really help you. And I hope that's helpful to you, Gemini. Let's have a look at Cancer then. So where is this showing up if you are a Cancerian or Cancerian ascendant? You've got Taurus going through your 11th house. Well, this Uranus Cazimi, as far as I can see for you, is showing you how friendships have changed over this last since 2018. I think you've had lots of senses of freedom with your friends. Maybe you have grown as a person because of taking more risks and being more spontaneous with different groups. And maybe you've got a little bit more political and a lot more right on and have had a much bigger vision for the world and for life, and you feel really quite community oriented. That's great. I think that has really helped you move on. And yet this could really trigger a sense of, and I want to be free of this. You know, I now need some more freedom. So I wonder how you can create more freedom for yourself and split from the group a little bit. Uranus will be coming into your 12th house in a month or so's time. And during that process, as he makes that transition, I think you're going to want to have a greater sense of soul-based freedom, that you have your own individuality. This is about reclaiming your sovereignty, and reclaiming the energy of yourself. This is a whole way of being, and I think your consciousness is about to shift in quite a dramatic way. So I hope that's helpful. Now, if you're a Leo, so this Cazimi, if you're a Leo, this is, I think, really highlighting a sense of how you can have complete freedom within your jobs. Not so much your job, but in your whole life. It's a whole life overview. This is your destiny, your legacy. What are you leaving the world? Have you done it enough? If you haven't been bold enough, how can you be bolder? I think this last Uranus and Sun conjunction is helping you to remember and have the perception and the awareness that if you want to be remembered for being great and for being really phenomenal, you're going to have to really be a lot freer about what you're doing. And you might need to be a bit more daring and a little bit more uncontrollable, a little bit more independent, and to almost let go of the judgments that you think are on you and not to give too much of a damn. This is really freeing you so that you can be even more free, and be felt far and wide. Very soon, this is going to be going into the next sign, in the sign of Gemini, and your freedom is going to be coming, I think, because you're going to be meeting new and powerful people who are similarly free. So use this moment to really open you up, and to create a whole new trajectory for yourself. Let's have a look now if you have got Virgo rising, or if you've got a really strong Virgo energy. So for you, Virgo, this new perception and awareness that's coming in with this Uranus Cazimi is absolutely opening your mind to brand new possibilities, possibly the idea that you need to travel, or the need that you need to get away. And I don't know if you've got away much since 2018, but this is about how you can experience something completely new, nothing like you've ever experienced before. So maybe something out of your culture, out of your political range, out of your sort of educational standards that you grew up with. Everything about the normal narrative is being blasted wide open. So anywhere where you feel like you're too normal, trust me when I say this Uranus Cazimi is opening you to possibilities of being anything but safe and reliable normal. This is about expanding your world way further than you've ever considered. And, if you ask yourself the question, how can I feel more free right now? More free than ever, so that I'm completely in my authenticity, this is the time to do it. So there you go, Virgo, have fun with that. Let's have a look at Libra then. Now, in a nutshell, Uranus has been going through quite a difficult part in your chart since 2018. It's created so much disruption in terms of family issues, old baggage, where you've had to navigate, where somebody's expecting something of you and it feels really heavy and oppressive. It's really giving you a complete emotional trigger workout. It's been quite hefty. This last Uranus Cazimi, I think, is preparing you for a much freer future. You may well get a certain awareness that something isn't over, and anywhere where you feel that something isn't quite completed, feel free to ask the question, how do I move beyond this? How do I move beyond this so I can enjoy my life? How do I move beyond this so I can close the door and know that my future is not in the past, but it's in the glorious future? There is a beautiful future coming. And especially as Uranus goes into the 12th house, the 9th house, you're going to be going on beautiful adventures. So get ready for that feeling of adventure. It's coming to you. Lots of love. Let's head on to Scorpio then. So if you have got Uranus having the Cazimi in the sign of Taurus for you, that's in the 7th house. To me, I just think your partners, if you're expecting your partner to be normal or regular or responsible or reliable, you may well be disappointed. Since 2018, things have been kind of speeding up and catching your eye. You've noticed that the people around you, they say they're going to do one thing, they do another. And, this is another chance for you to break free of this pattern and actually to realize that they're teaching you that you are nobody's fool. You are not there to be kowtowing to somebody else. You're meant to be as free and as irresponsible as they are, if you choose to. So the people in your life, as much as they might bug you sometimes, they are there to teach you that you've got too normal, you've got too conservative, and it's time to jolly it up. So use this Cazimi to think, how can I have a greater sense of passion with my partner? How can I have a greater sense of freedom with my partner? How can I feel free to be myself and not play to my partner's whims. This isn't a real Scorpio you thing. You are much freer usually, and this is helping you to be free. So ask yourself, how can I feel more free and work a relationship? And I think that will really help you. Lots and lots of love. Let's have a look now then at Sagittarius. So if you're going through this and you've got Sagittarius rising, this particular Cazimi is, I think, encouraging you. In fact, it's shaking you up saying, oh my God, you need a lot more fun in your life. So Uranus has been going through this part of your chart since 2018, this part of charts of ritual, of habits, of running your life. And it's thrown a spanner in the works here, there, and everywhere. You know, your life has opened up. It's got busier. It feels so much harder to manage. And actually on today, I think you get this opportunity to say, do you know what? I'm going to stop trying to manage my life. I realize when I manage my life, actually what happens is it stops me. It dulls me. It stops me from being the vibrant and bubbly Sagittarius that I am. So I think this particular Cazimi is there to help you throw everything out, all the rule books out, and to say, okay, how can my vibrancy come back? How can I feel free and know that life has got my back? How do I know that when I follow my freedom, life is going to take care of itself? So this is encouraging you to throw the rule books out and to feel much more vibrant. So any questions and thinking around that is, I think, going to help you set off on a whole new journey. Let's move on to Capricorn then for this Uranus Cazimi today. So if you've got this going on in your 5th house, this is really encouraging you to be a lot more spontaneous with your partners. It's really encouraging you that if your new partners and your children and the people that you are lifting yourself up with, you know, this part of the chart, and he's been here, Uranus has been here since 2018, encouraging you to really follow what you're passionate about, like really passionate about, not, you know, oh, I go out at the weekends and I do this, you know, this is the thing to do. And you're kind of following what everyone else is doing. This has been encouraging you to follow whatever freaky, weird and abnormal or different consciousness kind of hobby that you have. This is helping you to love the person that you really are and not the mask that you show the world. So Uranus here today is setting you up for a sense of new freedom. It's reminding you to be your freaky little self. It's reminding you that maybe the wrongness of you is actually the rightness of you. So that maybe the thing that you've been hiding, you can't suppress anymore. So wear it like you're proud of it. Be in your pride moment. And Uranus, I think, is going to work for you. Anyway, let's move on to Aquarius then. So if this Uranus Cazimi is taking place for you, this is a tricky one because home is where the heart is. That's what they say. And Uranus has been going through the part of your home for quite a long time, since 2018. He has been really bringing up feelings of unrest and that something new needs to happen. And so I think this is asking you to ask yourself, how can I have greater freshness in my life? How can I have that sense of being lifted up with my family? How can I break free of the monotony? How can me and my family have a sense of spontaneity and a sense of attunement? And how can we feel spiritually alive? So I think this is a really enlivening aspect for this part of your chart, Aquarius. And I really think that if you ask the right questions, your perception, your ideas, I think things are going to come in and you'll know exactly which changes to make. So make it count. Let's have a look then at Pisces. Then this is the last sign of the zodiac. And for you, this particular Cazimi is in your 3rd house area. To me, this is showing that things just haven't been the same for a long time in your community, not since 2018 when Uranus came in. And it's almost like things have just got so strange and unusual. And yet this is actually opening you up to a lot more opportunities, loads of opportunities. To me, it's like consciousness, a different kind of consciousness. You don't have to go far and wide to find it anymore. You can find it completely encapsulated within your community. So if I was in your shoes today, I think I might ask myself, what can I learn from my community that's going to help me find freedom? What can I learn from my friends, my peers, my siblings, my cousins that can free me up and help me feel more myself? How can I feel more awake and alive alive with the people around me? And I think if you're asking those kinds of questions, you'll know exactly what you need to do. The role that you need to participate in your community is going to be made really clear. So there you go. I hope that was helpful to you as a whistle-stop tour through all the signs using the Uranus Cazimi. Like I said, this is a tingling experience. This is about new consciousness. Remember, it's not just a one-day event, although I think you're sowing a really beautiful seed at this time, but this is the Sun and the Uranus coming together to start a whole new cycle. This is a cycle of innovation, a cycle of alertness. It's showing you not to ignore, not to smother, not to suppress. Anywhere where you want greater space, possibility, choice, and freedom, this is your day to really, really tune into it. So there you go. Wishing you loads of love to enjoy this, and hopefully I'll catch you another time real soon. Bye for now.